Hey, George. Bob and Kathy were in Italy, as you probably know, and he was just talking about it a little bit.
Yeah, I was just on with Kent McGowan, who just got back from Italy, and Steve Cummings. Kent and Steve both missed the summit because they were going to Italy, and Kent was just picking my brain about what we saw. Bob, welcome back. I'm a little jealous. So I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to. I'll shut up. You guys were in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what we're talking about. So,
Cool. Well, welcome back, man.
thank you.
Ed, our podcast together dropped this morning.
Oh, okay.
Your name's in lights, my man. Ed and I had a conversation in the hot seat about the relationship between. It's a really interesting conversation. The relationship between equity value planning, and exit planning, and how different valuation methodologies play out when you mash those two together. Every exit plan is a strategic plan. Not every strategic plan is an exit. In fact, only 17% data tells us. What's everyone up to, man? Hey, what's everyone up to? It's about to go on a tear. I'm over-caffeinated. I'm sorry.
Here you go. Sometime today, George, I do want to share with you. I'm not sure if I was asking Larry if you got that text. I want to share with somebody something for about a minute, just to share with you what AI can actually do. It was just amazing.
Okay.
So, Bob, why do you think the text didn't go through?
Well, I think it's too long because the thing is it's 16 minutes long, and this is what AI actually produced. Would you like me to play just like 30 seconds of it?
Sure. Why not? Who's curious? Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me get there.
You should be able to share your screen. If not, we used AI. We're about to release the new.
Can you hear this?
No.
You can't hear that?
No.
There's now you have to.
Yeah, the technology is going to cut out background noise so that the property maintenance service and the leaf blower can't be heard. Nor can you.
Well, I will send it to you. Bottom line is, they took my website. They went through the whole website, and there's a conversation between a man and a woman. It's just a flowing conversation. It's just like they talk about your website, just kind of the pros and the cons, and they just threw it in AI, and it just produced it. 16-minute audio on just, the pros and the cons, all that stuff. It was just amazing. So I will email it to you.
Awesome. You could also, if you're willing.
Hold on a second. I might be able to go like this.
Post it in the community.
Of business.
Can you hear that?
To help you navigate those tough decisions.
Oh, wait.
That's the promise the Catalyst Board makes.
That's right.
And today we're diving deep into whether they deliver.
We're going beyond the website's slick marketing.
I see.
There's a real substance behind those claims of predictable profits and sustainable growth.
You sent over some materials from.
So you get the point.
Yeah.
What service is this, Bob?
What?
What service or app?
Andrew at Yoda.
It's Andrew. The one and only. He spoke to us at the conference, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool.
I just thought that was an interesting thing that can happen.
That is a very interesting thing. I'm intrigued.
Guys, I'm sorry. I didn't hear that. Who did that?
Yoda. The people Andrew who spoke at the conference.
Remember, Bob had his AI guru come in by video link?
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah, and you're Andrew.
Yeah. So he has
an AI. What AI platform was that your website fed through? Or he just did it himself?
Well, one of his Dave in the team did it, but he just basically put thecatalystboard.com in some kind of, I don't know what service he used, and that's what developed. It goes through there and pulls stuff out and has this conversation. 16-minute conversation.
Gee.
AI. Larry, I showed you. So Andy Weevil, piling onto that, Andy Weevil shared gamma.app. It is not gamma.ai. Gamma. And then I showed Larry how you can go. I mean, I showed Larry by going into Perplexity, throwing in a random topic, copying it, pasting it, and Gamma built a pretty good deck, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a good first pass. We used it. I love it for its graphics. So we used it to take the C3D and paste them into, actually upload by link. It's so easy, into gamma.app to give us, in fact, I'd be happy to show you the look and feel that you get. I should actually show you. Okay, I've lost us. Where are we? There we are. I'd be happy to show you what it looks like when it builds a deck. It's incredible as a first pass. So if you're looking for a tool to be your research assistant and do a first pass at a deck, gamma.app does a good job. It is not perfect, and look at the images carefully. I had one that I noticed late last night. It was probably offensive. Look at your images carefully. Be careful. But as a first pass, doing a first draft, it's really magic. And you end up with, here, I'll show you the look and feel that we picked.
Yeah, it's great. Just to jump in, it's like, what I like is the flow and storytell.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm just, this is Rev 1, guys. So it's not finished. C3D Class 1. But it gives you, it built these, it took my content and put it in here and actually added some context around it. I had to do some editing because we have a story, and one frustration was, even when I tell it, do not change a single word, it changes your words. But it gives you, this look and feel, which is a much cleaner look and feel, and a much more, it's beautiful. It's professional. And, and here we are. This is Rev 1. By the end of today, we're going to have Rev 2 of most of C3D, and we're moving to recording. In fact, Larry and I are booked on Thursday to do a bunch of recording. Ed's in the mix as well. So, this stuff, and I'd be happy to, you can get a gamma.app account for free. I am an affiliate, so if you're going to buy, please let me know. It's not going to save you any money, but it'll, throw a few extra shekels. It'll buy a round of cocktails at the next summit. No, it's not a lot of money, so I don't.
We get a big present value on that money. Must be really high, George.
Hey, speaking of which, guys, we are booked. So C3D is coming out. We are booked for the summit for next year. It is on the website. Many of you have clicked in and put the save the date on your calendars. Thank you. And please, we are going to have 75 folks here, and 75 us allows us to do some interesting stuff. We have booked, we've booked the Gibbs under the rotunda for a catered dinner. It's going to be great, even greater, because this year, who thought it was, well, only Larry and Ed were here, but it was pretty, and Bob was here. Sorry, Bob. Yes, Bob and Kathy. Yeah, it was pretty great, wasn't it? I'm still kind of floating up here.
Yeah.
It was absolutely.
One of the best sessions, George, was Ed on the panel. Those panel sessions.
Yes.
And I think we learned that the more workshops where people are at the table, brainstorming as smart people on solving problems and then presenting them, and then panel discussions around hot topics, important topics, you get the input from Ed and Bob and others in that panel. I don't know if you have feedback specific, but those type of sessions, there's a buzz, there's an energy. You can't see any other learning format.
That's correct.
I agree. That panel, the panels that we did, really got lots of communications. I've had a ton of follow-up questions as a result of it. And I've even dealt with Mr. New York afterwards with the concepts and creativity.
Yeah, Bob. In fact, I'm meeting with Bob, and the comments come down to the immersive nature. Like, wow, I was expecting a traditional conference. Not that there's anything wrong with a traditional conference. It's just a very different experience. And what I experienced was what we're hitting on here. It's very immersive, very participatory. And next year, that's the reason that 75, not we're going to have 75 or 80 people, because we can run concurrent workshops that are meaningful and meaty. It's going to be a ton of fun, guys, at the Mills House again. And yeah, one of the things in C3D that we've added is communicating. So growth drives vision is to increase strategic capacity for $1 trillion of private businesses. If we're going to increase strategic capacity, we can't be strategic planners. We have to be strategy doers, right? We have to actually advise and lead our clients to creating their intent, to reaching their intent. We are going to continue to have our conferences be very immersive because I want them to be a learning experience, and our continuing education as a community will not be, please come sit and listen to George talk in a room. I mean, there's a little bit of that, listen to Larry present on leadership. There will be a little bit of that. Where we will allot CE points is to doing. Are you implementing? We don't make $1 off 90.io, but if you're embedding 90 in your clients and they're using it, that is evidence of strategic doing. If you're active inside the system and we see activity and scores changing, that is evidence of doing. If you're submitting cases, right, and you don't have to finish an engagement to create a case. Here's the problem that our client was trying to solve for it. Here's what we plan to do. And here's where we are, right? It doesn't need to be the final result. We don't need to wait for 3 years or 6 months. Here's where we are. Those are evidence of strategic doing. And that's where our CE is going to be focused. A marked difference, I believe, from essentially everyone in the market. We're going to support you guys, and collaboration and evidence of collaboration is also earns points. And we are describing a path to mastery, and you earn points every year towards, how does the market look in and say, okay, Larry's a C3D, Bob's a C3D. How much? And not Larry has been a C3D for 3 years because we don't know what he's done. Maybe he's come to a conference and listened to people go, wow, wow, wow in the dark. Great. But that is very different than Larry has amassed 312 points on his path to mastery. Bob has amassed 792. So Bob has demonstrated, all the implications that are there. So super exciting what we have coming out, man. Okay, I'm sorry. I got on my pedestal. Does that all make sense, guys? Does that align with, yeah. Good, because I've talked to a lot of you about it. I don't just come up with this stuff out of the ether. And there's been a lot.
You met welcoming our new member from the Washington, D.C. metro area there, this young lady.
Hey, Silvana, I did not see you. You were one tile over from Steve. Good morning, Silvana.
Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry I was a little bit late. I had an early meeting with Europe, and so I rushed here.
That's not a problem. I actually have to jump off in 10 minutes. Yeah, man. Hey, guys, if you look in your dashboard in Clarity, and if you don't see it, email me. Email support, please, so that it doesn't land on my desk. Save me having to forward it. But just email support and say, I can't see risk management. We're going through the list and adding it. And that'll be done by the end of today. But risk management is pretty cool. Would anyone like to have a quick look at it?
Yes.
Head bobbing down. Okay, great, guys. I'm happy to. Where is it? I have it open. Okay. Zoom, share screen, desktop 1, share. Okay. Everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So you're in, I'm just going to jump to Clarity level 1 here. I'm on the dev server. Who cares? So I'm in Clarity level 1. Now imagine you've been through Clarity level 1. You've walked your client through the range of value reports, and which we're all very familiar with, and the equity value planner. Hey, what will the business need to be worth for you to hit your personal wealth goals? Cool. The next thing we need to do now, imagine you are collaborating with a COI. Now I'm putting on our business advisor hat, right? And you are collaborating with or want to collaborate with a wealth and insurance advisor. If this module is designed to educate the client about external risks to the business and to really start a conversation about the power of personal planning and succession planning and the use that sophisticated compensation and insurance products can bring to the table. Now imagine that you want to refer Diane Ridge to your strategic COI. You could lead this conversation one-on-one with Diane and say, hey, I know you're working with Rick. Rick's a great guy. My person over here is a specialist in privately held businesses, and it's a free consultation. If Rick isn't discussing this with you, why don't you arm yourself with a little more knowledge? So you can see how this conversation would play out. If you're sitting in the room and the COI has brought the business owner, imagine if you have a conversation, you do clarity 1, you walk through the equity value planner. And then you say, okay, well, let's dig a little deeper into external risks to the business. So I'm going to click on risk management. And in risk management, we're pulling, okay, here's your business value at high strategic capacity. That comes from the equity value planner. From range of values. Your combined coverage, right? Because if you have a buy sell, it's going to cover the whole business divided along ownership percentage lines. But let's say that you did your buy sell years ago and you got $3 million. We have a gap. You have personal life. Your required portfolio value is 10 million, and you haven't bought any additional life insurance for a long time. By the way, that's really typical. You have personal disability. You don't have any personal disability coverage. How do we see how we're starting a conversation? I'm not saying you have to buy this insurance. I'm just saying that you're at risk. Okay. Then we have 15. I'm so used to saying 25. They're just 15 questions, 5 in each of 3 areas. Personal risk, right? You have a buy-sell agreement in place. You have taken legal measures to protect the transfer of your wealth, advanced planning. You have a formal succession plan in place. This is a softball, right? But this is where it gets important. This is the confluence with owner-based planning at BEI. Mm-hmm. Key person, leadership compensation, retirement, and benefits. Okay? And these are conversations that COI sitting next to you is really, this creates a what's in it for them at the beginning of the engagement. It increases their relevance and impact on their private business owning client. Remember, Silvana here, wealth advisor, brought this person to the table. So I'm making Silvana look good. Is Silvana going to bring someone else? I hope so. And then we have business risk. And, we asked 5 questions. I think one of the most important is, having been through this, you have protected your operating capital and business debt from the risk caused if you're no longer able to work, or worse. Okay. And so now we've done this analysis. What do we know? Well, we just generate a very simple report, guys. We generate a score, right, for each of those 3 areas. Again, we're just leading a conversation. I'm not telling you what insurance coverage to get. In fact, I say these are for discussion purposes only. Talk to somebody competent. And then we have, here's the risk impact on your personal life, on your team. What are we protecting? Your long-term goals, succession. What is the best practice? Now, these were crafted with input from several of you in the community. And here are your answers. And, imagine if this is, imagine how your COI, imagine where your customer views you, right? Because you're talking about, you're presenting it as someone who's, talk about holistic coverage. So I'm very excited about this. And several of you are using it already. Brian Azarko is using it in a workshop today or tomorrow. So, okay, that was my quick overview.
Is that the very bottom? I'm sorry, George, go to the very bottom. That's okay.
That's it.
what happens when you submit it.
And that's it. That's it.
So this is really a great discussion, guy, aligned with owner-based planning from B. Okay. I got 2 clients that I think need to go through this. I don't know for all.
No, it's not a but, it's an and. I have 2
And yeah,
I'm like,
no, I'm just ring and processing, and I have 2 clients that. But what I don't know is they could have all this, and it's really validating that they have the right coverage.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's great. My suspicion is that they won't. The data will tell us, and more to follow. BEI, we have a very close relationship because both organizations are committed to delivering successful outcomes, right? And what I want to do is, one, you've heard me say, I'm going to call bullshit. We all think, I thought that would be very hard for you, Larry, to refer a business owner to a wealth advisor. And we have to, and Mike Garrison caused me to chat. He said, bullshit. No. I'm like, wait, what? And that's out of that conversation, and the conversations and going through the owner-based planning, what we call business growth and continuity course with BEI, that caused me to say, okay, well, wait a second. Why can't Larry ask these questions? There's no earthly reason why not. And if you're sitting one-on-one with a CEO, you might say, hey, you decide what you want to do with this report. Call Rick, get help. Because at the end of the day, what do we care about? That these risks are covered. Now, it's good for you if you're able to do something that's going to allow you to expand your reach in the market. So maybe make Silvana the wealth advisor. Silvana, ladies and gentlemen of the public, is not a wealth advisor, but she's my playing the role this morning. But Silvana has a Rolodex full of business owners. And if Silvana is not comfortable introducing Larry and Ed and Bob and Joe and Al and Frank and Dan and Jane into those engagements, in fact, I've got to get hold of Jane, then how do we further the conversation? We need to get CEOs to wake up, because they won't. And I had a conversation yesterday with someone, a mover and shaker, and we were literally he was literally laughing out loud about this issue, that CEOs think they're fine. But we're fine. And we all know that the vast majority of companies could use a true up at a minimum. So there's my...
George, I have a question.
Please, Bob. Well, we have an insurance person right here. Bob, what do you mean?
I'm not really in this space. But anyhow, I'll do perfect. So you have all these different things. You have Clarity One, all these reports, things of that nature. Is there something at the end of the day that kind of summarizes this? That says, whether you print it out or it's just some kind of contextualized, because there's a lot of, tabs, which is great, but also you gotta make it easy for the business owner, whatever that kind of looks like, to say, hey, here's 3 or 4 pages or 5 pages. Each one is kind of summarized.
So here's what we have. We have the Clarity Level 1 report. And if you go and click on the Level 1 report, there are a couple of visual issues that the team may have already fixed. I haven't checked. But the Level 1 report, meaning the logos weren't rendering correctly. The Level 1 report, although not 5 pages, is a comprehensive discussion, and I have fed it into Gamma.app, into Perplexity, and created summaries. So if you want to do something shorter, take that report and you can apply AI in moments to create a summary, to create a presentation. So those are intersections. It's very easy to do. We also, Bob, are generating, I'm going to have to scoot in a couple minutes. We are generating a new strategic capacity report after Level 2. That is in the Skunk Works. As soon as I get C3D done, I will do my final pass, sign off, and have it coded so that our Level 2 report becomes a continuation of the Level 1 report, of that conversation about strategic capacity and its impact on transferable value. But the Level 2 report is leaning hard into, here's what we can do about it. And then and more to come, because we're going to be layering AI over the top of all this. I mean, there's already AI working behind the scenes, but like AI you can interact with. One thing at a time. Did that answer your question, Bob?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Thoughts, guys? Questions?
Hey, George, last week you were 3 or 4 weeks away from the level 2 report. Are you still 3 or 4 weeks away?
I hope so. Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I'm in software development. What's unique is that we talk about the future. It's something I was trained hard for, a couple of decades, never talk about what you're doing next, because, and here's the reason, because it gives people, well, I'll buy, and we have one person doing that right now. Well, I'll become a subscriber when you have this functionality. And it's like, we already have more functionality than anyone in the market. If you want to make profit growth and value growth actionable, there's no one that has the tools we do. And guys, I can tell you, and I'm working hard on it, the leading lights at the enterprise level, you have some people who are saying literally, holy shit, at what we have and what you individually represent. So Steve, yes, and it's coming. And what's important, guys, and I'm not, you can choose to do C3D or not, but that will become, at the enterprise level, they have reputational risk. And C3D becomes a checkbox on quality so that they know who you are. That's easy to figure out. They know what process and methodology and process you're bringing to the table. They know that you have demonstrated that you understand it by taking an exam, and they know what conversation, generally speaking, you're going to have when Monster Wealth Advisory tells their financial advisors, talk to one of these cats. They know what that referral looks like. Right now, it's the Wild West. Think about the risk to a giant wirehouse when their FAs are out there bringing whoever they see fit into the conversation. So how do we solve for that? That's okay. One more minute, and I'm gonna someone else to host. I've gotta go. Does that answer your question, Steve?
Yep. Good enough.
Long-winded answer to a simple question. What else, guys? Nothing. Larry is deep in thought.
I'm lost in thought.
I'll say one last thing. I'm doing business with Bob Goldsmith and Carl Cox, and I can't say those guys are great. I had a long conversation with Bob today. They're just phenomenal.
Yes.
I mean, those were two really good people that I really appreciate. Thank you, George, for getting into the conference. They were.
Bob, I'm thrilled to hear you say that. I'm thrilled you're collaborating with those guys. Our community, we are blessed, guys. Our community attracts high quality senior professionals. Look at yourselves, right? People who have decades of experience running businesses and advising businesses. And those two guys are just, they represent us, right? So thank you, Bob. And we're growing, and we're growing, and got a couple of cool guys I can't wait to have join us on the coffee Klatsch. So
Excellent.
all right, I'm sure someone else who wants to, Steve, you sticking around?
I will.
I'm going to make someone, I don't want end. I just need to leave the meeting. Okay, guys, thank you. If I can help in any way, hit me up. And thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming every week. And next week's election day, so we probably won't. Feel free to join. You might want to get your brain off the election. So I'm going to make someone else the moderator. Thank you. Thank you very much. And who did I just say? I picked on Steve, my favorite victim. There you go. Thank you, guys. Have a great week.
Take care, George.
Steve Duke is host now.
We're adrift.
Yeah,
So
I'm working
just
with.
an FYI, I'm not sure if any of you I've been reading about Perplexity and all these different things, but Perplexity, one of their main focuses is financial information. That is, they are going after the financial institutions.
Correct.
So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but I mean, if you're looking at any kind of stock analysis or anything of that, that is one of their target markets. That's just an FYI, and that's what Perplexity is extremely good at.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, I've been looking at them too, and yes, they seem to be going towards the financial information in particular, in addition to other stuff.
Yeah. Because, I just put in, and I put in my post today was, what did the stock market do the week of the election, presidential election since 2020, since 2000? And it, gives you all this information and why. I mean, it's really, you can ask it to kind of back test things or kind of, what does things look like? So, I mean, it's interesting, but that's really what Perplexity is extremely good at.
Good to know. Did not know that. I do see where ChatGPT, which I've been using a lot lately, has improved over several months. And I'm talking about just the free version. That I've been using it to help with client problems. Putting in the prompts, refining the prompts. I've had clients have some challenges and thinking some things through from a decision-making standpoint, and I put it in. I had one that was unsure what direction to go in the market. So I played with it a little bit, and it produced something she's never seen before. And so that's something that is important, because a lot of business owners, and Ed, I think, and Steve, you were there about 2-3 years ago when we had the summit with George in Charleston.
Right.
I had a roundtable around what is the biggest risk to a lot of business owners in growing their business. And we had different leadership team, but in the end, the consensus was not really understanding the market, where to grow, what the trends are, and how it affects opportunities and threats. And I found ChatGPT to be pretty good at producing thoughts on that.
It's interesting you say that, Larry, because I've been looking at both Perplexity and ChatGPT, because I'm trying to look at a 3 to 5 year forecast to do a valuation. And I'm trying to test the credibility of the owners as to how well they're thinking about market opportunity and where it's going. And I'm going to be meeting with them on November the 7th, going over it. They're flying in to Columbus for us to go through it. What I'm doing is coming armed with a lot of background research that I've done to challenge their thinking. Not that I'm right, as much as help them to think better about what are the opportunities they have in their market. And the reason is, I did a valuation in 2020, and they were worth around $8 million. The valuation as of December 23, 32. Okay, so the question becomes, how can you sustain that type of growth and performance? I mean, they're doing almost 17 million with an EBITDA of 2.8 million. So you can see why I'm eliminating directly revenue multiple. I'm using only an EBITDA because I don't trust revenue multiple, which I think is too high. Bob, as you say, sometimes we look at these and you say, it doesn't make sense. Who's going to buy it at 2 times? You know what I did? I called 5 insurance groups that were acquiring. Every one of them said they would have paid 2 times at the minute they heard what it was doing.
Would or would not? I'm sorry, I missed that.
They would.
They would.
But I'm still going to take it out because for valuation purposes, I don't believe that I can rely on it because it's based on historical transactions, and I'd rather rely on the EBITDA multiple, which drops it from 32 million to 28. So, I mean, it's not like it's radically relevant.
That's an interesting point. I guess another way to go about it is use the EBITDA as probably the more conservative or the more reasonable part of the range, and then use the revenue as the topper end and say, hey, very likely is this, but it could go up to this depending on the situation at that time that you are selling. Do you think that will work?
It will, because when we're meeting, one of the questions I'm having is, should they implement a Popeye plan that was presented out at the conference and buying out the minority shareholder, but getting them some cash out of the business? And it's a 51-49, and 49 would like trickle cash flow. The problem right now, he's got to record like 1.4 million because it's a sub S, so he gets 49% of pre-tax, and that means I got to suck out all the cash to pay to him. When if they were redeeming stock, it'd be a better deal for everybody. So
Yeah.
I'm working with Anna on introducing the concept of a Popeye plan for buying out the minority shareholder.
I have another AI question. When we get information from AI, and I just thought of this, is how much confidence do we have in that information? Has anyone, one of you, or do you know if I could put in at the end, and what is your confidence index or level AI of this information? I'm just wondering if, because I do have a client that they get all excited. He's the CEO of a company, and his management team got all excited about information generated by AI. And when they really scrubbed it, it was all strategy because it wasn't fully accurate. It looks so good when it gets produced. What do you think, Silvana?
I'm just going to tell you, I have not tried to ask AI of their opinion of the confidence level. It's an actually brilliant idea, so I'll try that. I personally take AI for what it is, and I never take it as the source of authority. I take it more as a research assistant or somebody. Actually, I take the analysis that AI generates as the product of a senior analyst research as an entry point to then looking at the research and then validating if the research is correct. So I always try to validate. I don't take AI as is. I mean, I've done it for technology plans. I've done it for strategies, go to market. I personally am not 100% comfortable to just go with it without validating it.
I agree.
Larry, I'm sure you know this, but of course, if you're using Perplexity, it cites where they got the data from. And my answer to your question is it's the same as us having a coffee Klatsch, and we all have opinions, and so we all offer them. And it's up to whoever the receiver is to make some judgment whether or not the opinion you just got is a good one. So.
Yeah, and I forgot, Steve. That's a good point. I could just always say, please cite references, and then vet the data from those references or go to those references as well. Thank you.
Well, but the references in ChatGPT should be automatic, or have they taken them away, right?
I don't see them. I don't pay.
Well, I didn't pay before, but I always got the reference there, or maybe somebody. Well, I'm using Copilot lately, and Copilot always has the references. So at least you have a link there that you can click in. So every time they make a point, there is a link at the end of it. And so I click the link and I can go to the source. But if I recall correctly, when I did a while back, before I started using Copilot more, I was able to get the source points.
I don't recall that ChatGPT's ever done that, Silvana.
Yeah,
I take it back. I was using my friend's access, and he might have had a paid one. I thought, because we were exchanging, articles and so on, and they always had the bibliography, which I loved, because then, like, it made a point. It says, okay, I was working on research for an article about the trends on the small business exits and so on. And so it had like 5-6 points of what's happening and what affects it. And so each one of those points had links. But I remember now that we collaborated together, and the bibliography, which I loved, allowed me to then go directly to all 32 articles to see how AI had compiled the summary based on those 32 articles and came up with those 5 points.
Okay.
By the way, thank you, Sylvan. Did George say the risk management tool is active, or that was in development?
He said it was being loaded on each of our sites one at a time. So he didn't know if you would have had it yet. And if not, he said to just drop him a line and he'll make sure that
Sure did.
you get in there.
Yep, I got it. Okay, awesome. Good, it's there.
I mean, that tool looks like it's pretty adaptive, and it does ask some of those right questions that we personally have been asking over a long period of time. And now we're actually getting into it in a formalized approach to doing it. And I like the fact that we look at all 3 aspects of the operation.
I do. And actually, I wanted to point out to George, I've been familiar. I'm happy to see the risk management, because last year I did a lot of work in preparation of launching the Value Growth Quarterback, or some version of the program for small businesses. And one of the things that we were looking at was using Growth Drive, which now it's even more powerful. But what it was lacking was the component of the Protect equivalent on Value Compass. And what I see right now, the risk management, because Protect is risk management basically, and it only focused on the coverage, the key man insurance and all these other things, which are still very important. What I love about the risk management right now is that it's very comprehensive and it's got the 3 areas, which takes it way too much. Until this came about, I was thinking about figuring out how to incorporate Protect on my assessment to give the full picture from a risk management perspective. And now I don't have to, because it's already integrated, which is really lovely.
Thanks, Savannah. Looking at the risk management tool, which I do have, the owner has to fill out the equity value planner first. I thought George said not, but
Yeah, I assumed you had to do it too.
yeah, it feeds into the risk management tool.
What did you say, Larry? What needs to be filled out?
So the equity planning tool, the equity value planner needs to be completed, because that data feeds into the risk management tool.
Okay.
I wonder if there is a way. I mean, I don't see a reason why a owner would not be interested in filling out the equity planner or working with the advisor to go through the equity planner. But for some reason, that seems to be a hurdle, and all they want to talk about is the business, or like share more about the business side. I wonder if there was a way for going straight to the risk management, because to me, from a business owner's perspective, if we're starting talking and working with them before exit, because during the exit process, there is always a need for looking at it holistically and what do I get out of it. But if we're talking about growth specifically without an exit in horizon, then, I think it's vital that we do the equity planner regardless of where they are in the exit process. But it might be a challenge sometimes, and maybe having the option to have the risk management not quite coupled with the equity planner might be helpful. What do you guys think?
I think it needs to be coupled, personally, because everything boils down to money. So if you don't need any money, then your risk is much reduced. If your business is today is 5 million and it needs to be 15 million for life to be good, then you get a risk. And conversely.
Okay. With that thought, though, is what I mean. I totally agree that they are coupled. More from a data perspective. So the data one needs to generate the risk management truly connected to it's a sequential. You do the equity planner and then you do the risk management. And what I'm saying is, regardless of agreeing with you that they are connected and there is a sequence, sometimes in the growth phase, without being in the exit phase, conversation might seem premature. So, but we still want the risk management, the risk, portion of it. So
Ron, I think, well, that's exactly why we'd want it, because what if there's a premature event occurring that it's not planned for? Example is if when I'm working with a 48-year-old, well, we're not talking exit planning. What we're talking is getting the company stronger and growing it solidly and having a good management team. Well, but some values out there tell us, what if the creator, the person with the brainstorm that's running this whole concept, suddenly is not there?
Half of all exits are planned, right, Ed?
Right, exactly. An unplanned exit. I was involved with about 3 or 4 of those kind of workout projects where somebody suddenly dies prematurely and there's nobody there to run it, and somebody's got to step in and take over. Well, I think that's the only purpose of even having filled this in, and that is, I used to use it because I was involved with a trucking company and said, you never know when you're going to get run over by a truck. So make sure you have insurance in there just in case.
And I mean, agreement. I'm just wondering, how do we handle objections? If there are any objections or reluctance to go in that direction. Because for owners that don't have any objections, then that's easy peasy. They give you the information, or they even fill the information their own without, collaborating with you. And then we have data and the assessment, and we have a meaningful conversation. There are other times where we have to walk the owners through the different stages because they're not 100%, convinced. And in that case, have you seen any objections? What has been your experience? That's what I'm asking.
I think the issue you're talking about is broader. Most business owners will tell you or tell us, I'm fine. Don't need it. The unplanned exit thing is just a subset of that. I'm going to live forever. Why are you bothering me with this stuff? I'm in the eternal search for the right language somehow. I don't have it.
Exactly, because I was going through this. I have a good friend. He's got a marketing company and he wants to go sell the world. And he said, "Oh, I've got everything set up." Because I went to him and I said, "Listen, I really would like to work with a friendly CEO and I want to go through my system and my process." And I said, "Would you be willing?" And it's like, "Sure, but I've got everything down." I said, "I have no doubt that you have everything down." And I said, "That's okay. Then think of it as a favor to me, not necessarily that you need something." But I said, there is a possibility that you might find something or learn something that you didn't know or you didn't quite realize was that. And so it gave me like a little bit of a understanding of the type of thinking out there. And he's a very smart guy. And I'm sure he's got majority of the things zipped up as he wants them. But even him, smart as he is, young as he is, still thinks, just like you said, Steve, I've got everything under control. So, and he's like, "Okay, well, I'll spend 2 hours with you and I'm going to do these, but I've got everything under control." I said, "Okay." I said, "I'm sure you do." And think about other people thinking, how do we go past that? I guess that's always been in my mind.
It's a good question because, Steve, when I listen to you, it's also us assessing the owner's mindset and readiness to receive this type of dialogue and information. And that I'm very confident in my background and skill set when it comes to the business. But when it starts getting to the equity planning tool, when it comes to the risk management, I've been through the BEI training. I know I got a small C in certification. I don't have the same level of confidence, but I just while we've been talking, I played with the tool. To put the data in the risk management tab, you need to fill out the equity planning tool, but you could skip the financials on the gap on insurance in the three areas and go right to the questions in those three categories, 5 questions each, complete and still submit and get a score with the classic A, B, C scoring and the circles. You could still do that, but you won't have the financial data in it. So you could still, for purposes like at my level and what I do here, have that awareness conversation around risk management, not to have the numbers all plugged in, but just have a general conversation to make them aware where they might have risk and not. And then I could say, if you want to go deeper with this, let's marry it to real data and do the equity planning tool. Because if I just sent Tom and Susan, who are owners of $30 and $140 million businesses, we're going to meet for X, Y, and Z, bring all this data, it might create a little hesitation. They're not used to me doing that, even though I see a lot of their data. What they might be better is me showing the risk management tool in what I can do without the data and say, hey, you see this? Now that you're more aware, let's come back and bring the data. And so I'm just trying to know that pathway in to that interaction based on the role I play currently, where Ed, you play a different role.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
I tend to get a copy of that information a little earlier, and I'm aware of the insurance coverages, and I ask that question as part of my valuation. So I see a better part of the financial data, but I'm not looking at aspects of marketing strategy, things of that nature like you're going to be involved with, Larry. I don't get into that role at all because I'm looking at it as a value and what are the drivers, and then what are the areas that are a challenge and the possibility of hiccups in the whole system.
Yeah.
And see, I think it depends on where you're practicing. But Larry, from our perspective, one of the things that's happening is that we're working with 2 of the BEI people that are in Columbus. And so one of the things I want to be able to do is show them the feature of the value part and show how getting that value piece of the insurance and then we do this risk assessment for their client. That's going to bring a lot more credibility to help them justify having us to give them some guidance.
Good. Thanks.
I have a question. When we were in Charleston, one of the things that we spoke about is, as a community, together some representative use cases using the tool that then we can all access in our conversations with the CEOs to demonstrate and illustrate the strength of the tool and the features and what the benefits are. And I was wondering, Larry, especially you, because I know you are close with George, are we planning to do something like that?
Yeah.
Is it something as a community that we can do? Because honestly, I personally could use them. Because there is one.
Here's what I recommended to George. Based on that conversation, I think we had and others, and he loves the idea. It's just a matter of when he'll get to it in his planning, is take Ridge Specialty Tool Company that he speaks about quite a bit and put them in on everyone's dashboard, completely loaded with every tool completed, and then maybe a video over you that you could click on to get his perspective on what the data means. And that way we have, all of us, a set data to refer to.
I would love that sooner than later. It could be very helpful because I've tried to build my own, and honestly, I probably don't have as many examples as probably Ed or Steve has, or even you, Larry. But I feel like the more access we have to that, I personally was also thinking maybe instead of just one, we can also think, and I'm happy to support this or to like spearhead it on behalf of the community and on behalf of George, but I'm thinking it'll be nice for us to have 2 or 3 meaningful use cases. Maybe we can even pick different profile companies that are representative of where we offer more bang for the buck.
I think that's
And-
been on George's list of things to do for quite some time, for years, actually.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help.
Be reminded.
Yeah, Steve, you're right. It's just a matter of timing because he has to finish the certification program first because that elevates the entire community. The bigger vision is how do we elevate this growth advisory work we do to a higher level? And just like exit planning has certification and everything has certification, how do we create growth drive, mass certification and master certification? And that's what he was talking about earlier. And how do we maintain credit, build our credit to that and continuing ed? And so he's had that certification program. We've all been a part of it in some fashion, but now he's going to formalize it and it's going to be online and it's that way people could take it on their own time. And it's too time consuming for him to run it live. It's just not doable as he grows. That's number one, as he fine tunes some of the other tools and reports. But I think let's begin with the Ridge specialty tools, load that in completely, and then build throughout 2025 those case use studies in different industries or in different size companies too, or situations. And I think then we have a great reference to refer to because I would love to see Rich specialty tools with the equity planning tool, the risk management, all of that loaded in.
That's an excellent idea.
So
And
Rich Specialty is going to give us a great one for manufacturing. When we get over to service industry, we got a different one, and I'll be glad to spearhead that one. But then look at distribution, and that's going to give you a whole different nature of things.
So what I'm proposing, and I'm very happy to be the glue of this, neither of us can, with the practicality of loading Ridge on everybody's profile. So that's something that George can do. But that to me, it's more of a technical thing or, just packaging it. And then somebody on George's team can just say, okay, copy, paste, click, upload, download, done. I think the other stuff is we can put our heads together, and I'm happy to facilitate that from a practicality or project perspective. We're saying, okay, Steve has, Ed has got this type of, option, and we can, without even bothering George, because I know he's got his hands full, look at what Ridge specialty is, and then basically whatever new use cases that follows that, and it's complete. And then have it ready, and then work with George then to make that available to the community as another data reference for that. And then we can choose different profile. We can put our heads together as a community and say, okay, who are we targeting? I've been up to my eyeballs trying to figure out my avatars and what kind of people I'm targeting to talk to and work with, and what is the message that I'm giving them, and, what is the benefits that they get from my work using the growth drive and other tools that I have in my toolbox. So I feel like the very first thing that everybody asks is, well, what industries do you work with? And when I say without a fail with everybody, when I say, well, majority of the assessment, it's industry agnostic, because we're not looking at the details of marketing services versus manufacturing versus products. We're looking at the holistically, how is the company run and how does that look like in comparison with the market, in comparison with the best practices, and how does the market views that company? Has nothing less to do with is your marketing B2B or B2C. It's more to, do you have an effective marketing? So people look at me like, yeah, but it's too complicated. I'm too special and it's impossible for you to give me that information. So I think the more we demonstrate, the better it is.
Well, since you volunteered, Savannah, why don't you?
I'm happy to. I'll ping everybody, and we can have a powwow and say, okay, what things, and this is up my alley anyhow. So we can think about, okay, considering our basic profile of the target CEOs and business owners we're going after. And now some of us might have very specific specialty. Maybe Ed, 50% of his CEOs are manufacturing or services or whatever. But it doesn't really matter. What matters is that más o menos we have like a typical 5 profiles business owner CEOs that we're going after. And so looking at them, we're going to say, can we come up with 5 that speak to those 3-5 type of profiles? And then we look at, all of our team and say, okay, who has got a good case that we can scrap? It doesn't have to be the name of the company. We can even scrap some of the numbers, but the gist of what we are talking about is still true to the true reality of that particular company. And if we can, I'm happy to work with you to extrapolate that and then work with George to figure out what would it take for us then to those use cases and turn them into generic, demonstratable, illustratable use cases that the whole team can use. And I'm happy to do that.
Well, why don't we just, same as every problem, begin with the end in mind. So let's set a goal, outline it, present it to George, get it on George's agenda, all of our agenda, and then it's the first step.
I'm happy to do that. I will take the lead on this and I'll work with all of you. I'll come up with what I think it is, send it to you. And then I'll also, before I even go to George, I will also think that it will be nice for us to come up with what we think those representative cases might look like. So then it's very clear for him to say, okay, well, I like these, or maybe you should want to do that. And then if he says yes, then we can go about the process of scrubbing or creating the bespoke use cases and using the tool. And then when we are ready with that, then we can just basically say, hey, George, go to my profile or Larry's profile, and you'll find this particular example, which is a use case that can be generic. And then he figure out then how he's going to pull it from there and put it to everybody else's. Or on a specific library.
Yep.
Silvana, what's your email?
Silvana at Korabi, Korabi.
I'm sorry.
And I'm putting it on the chat right now.
Okay. I already have the email ready to go to George on this. I've been typing the email as we've been speaking. And then I want to copy you, Ed, and Steve, all of us. And so George sees it, and the fact that you're willing to support it as well. Korabi Consulting. Korabi. Okay.
And to make it easy, Larry, and I'm happy to tell this to George. George, all he has to do is to be a sounding board or to give us certain parameters that are needed for us to be successful in his mind. And then I can help with you guys to execute so he doesn't get affected by what his core priorities are. But at the same time, we as a team collectively sort of move forward, accomplishing what he is doing and also what's needed for us to grow our practice and to grow, the whole Growth Drive community.
I think more hands on this project is going to make it lighter work for everybody. But more importantly, Silvana, as you mentioned, and as Larry knows, if we get our different thinking feeding into all of us as we're putting this together, we get a different perspective of how to utilize the strengths of the software. And we see it from a different perspective. And I think that's going to be as important as the different industries.
Absolutely.
I'll add one other thing. The Ridge company example already exists. Fleshing that out, I think, would provide a nice model for everything else that we do. So I think that's a good.
There was my thing all along. We should start with the golden standard that we all agree that, address. It's like what it can all be. And then based on that, we build the rest using that template.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
Well, kids, I got to go do something else.
Yep. I'm
Okay, I got it all sent, copied the three of you, and sent it to George. And then please add to it. Don't rely on my words alone. Add to that conversation. But it was good, very good.
Wonderful.
When,
You have a lovely
Thank
day.
okay, good enough.
Okay, bye-bye.
have a great day. Thanks.